Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League match day 1 in this new format. We have in this video games on Tuesday, the early kickoffs on Wednesday, and we have Alvaro Romeo. Hello, Alvaro. And Ronan Murphy to analyze with us some good games. For instance, in this video, you are going to check Milan, Liverpool, Juve, PSV, or even Celtic, Slovan Bratislava. Yeah, this is also Champions League this season, new format, remember. But still, the best picks, you are going to find them here. Ask any question to Alvaro, to Ronan. Don't forget, of course, to support us. Press the like, subscribe. Let's have fun. Let's go on with the show. And Champions League is kicking off on Tuesday with two early kick-off. The first one is especially interesting, in my opinion, in Torino, Juventus, PSV. Champions League back to Torino after last season where they were out. But this is a new Juventus. Allegri is gone. We have Thiago Motta in charge, but still no goals conceded. It looks like the 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲, 2 wins, 2 draws in the Serie A this season, and their last time they played in the Champions League was really disappointing. Remember, they were out of the group stages in a group with Benfica or PSG. For PSV, they started the season perfectly. 5 wins in 5 games with Peter Bosz in charge, with some known players like 𝐿𝐿 or Bakayoko. The big question mark, Alvaro, is this Juve reliable with odds are 1.8? Because I think it's early days to put that much trust on Juventus.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I think that Thiago Motta is a very good manager. I do believe that PSV in Eindhoven, as entertaining as they are, you have to take with a pinch of salt the results domestically. I always say the same thing, but there are leagues like the Dutch one or like the Scottish one that whatever happens there then doesn't necessarily translate to European football. Probably the biggest example of all has always been Ange Postecoglou's Celtic, who was a terrific force domestically at home, but then in European soil, they never did anything remarkable, actually. So let's go little by little. Let's analyze both sides. Let's see their weaknesses, their strengths. When I go to Juventus, the thing that catches my eye automatically is that Juventus hasn't conceded yet. In Serie A, 2 wins, 2 draws. Obviously, that point tally is not going to win them the Scudetto, but since I believe that Juventus's target this season is more than winning the Serie A, maybe the realistic one is qualifying against for the Champions League, I think that the start hasn't been too bad. Juventus hasn't been involved in the Champions League for 18 months right now. And the last time they played in the Champions League, they played with the likes of Szczęsny, Bonucci, Cuadrado, Rabiot, Chiesa. All these footballers are out. They were the poster boys of Juventus at that time. Now is the time for Douglas Luiz, for Khéphren Thuram, for Koop Meiners, who's very good, for Kenan Yildiz, and so on. Even Dusan Vlahovic, who will have to feel like a leader in this Juventus. He has scored 2 goals this season. So Juventus obviously is work in progress, but they got a good manager who qualified last season Bologna for the Champions League, and they've got a very good defense with Perin as a goalkeeper, and then Gatti, Bremer, Cambiaso, and Kalulu as defenders, at least in the last game. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to back Juventus somehow. Juventus to win 177. You don't like it. I do like it a little bit more. And I like the clean sheet for Juventus, as strange as it sounds, because PSV Eindhoven is a scoring force, but in the Netherlands. PSV has 15 points right now domestically. They haven't lost any top player this summer, as far as I can remember from the top of my head. They tend to concede a lot of goals. Yes, they conceded, for example, 4 against Feyenoord at the beginning of the season, but they have scored 20 goals in 4 league games. That goes automatically against my option of getting a clean sheet for Juventus. But again, Juventus in Italy against very strong opposition sometimes. Italian football is better than Dutch football domestically. They haven't conceded a single goal. So you have to keep that in mind. So a clean sheet for Juventus is something that I would be happy to go for, even though I know that PSV Eindhoven scores many goals domestically. But my favorite, Juventus to win. They haven't been in the Champions League for a year. I'm sure that the crowd will be oozing and willing for Juventus to take their first win under Thiago Motta in Europe. I'm going to back them to win. 177.
Okay. We have some people agreeing with me. Juve played like shit against Empoli. Juve ruined my ACCA. I don't trust Juventus. Take the draw. I cannot trust this useless Juve. Ronan, can you trust this Juve? I wouldn't say useless. It's early days, work in progress, this Thiago Motta's Juventus.
Yeah, I think it is, and he's obviously trying to bring the Juventus, like you said, the old lady, back to traditions of keeping clean sheets, being tight at the back, and it's proven well. It's proven to work well so far. So, like Alvaro said, I think Juventus clean sheet looks good here. But I also think that PSV, obviously, they've been doing well in the Dutch league, but it's a big step up. And when they play in Europe, they don't tend to play as well as they do in the domestic league, and 5 of PSV's last 6 Champions League games have had fewer than 3 goals. So they don't tend to be a team that scores a lot in Europe when they get there. Hirving Lozano, he's 4 goals for PSV so far this season, but he looks, like you said, to miss out through injury. So that'll be another kind of a boost for Juventus to keep the score down. So it is very hard to look past this Juventus win. It's on the screen there at 1.83. So it looks like great value to look at Juventus this week, and I think they can start the Champions League off, the new Champions League format, with a win in front of their home fans. I like the look of that. I don't think this is going to be a huge high scoring match, so you could combine that Juventus win with some other options. Juventus to win and under 2.5 goals is 4.4, or Juventus to win and exactly 3 goals is 5. They're options if you think it's going to be a low scoring match, but a Juventus win like I do. But overall, I don't see a lot of goals coming here, because Juventus they've been great defensively, but they've not been wonderful in attack. They started the league well with 2 3-0 wins, but then they followed those up with 2-0 all draws. So they haven't really been scoring lots of goals, or as many as they should have. And 𝗲𝗏𝗏, he's the man up front, but he's not scored in 3 of those games. So he needs to kind of get his act together. So it could be a difficult match for him. I think Juventus will win, but I like the look of overall here. Total goals under 2.75. That's my tip for this one, because I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Juventus will win, but I just don't think it's going to be a high-scoring match.
Well, we had some comments going for the under and perhaps combining it with a double chance for Juventus, much safer, 1x and under 3 goals. Someone was suggesting, which is a safer bet. For instance, our Ukrainian friend Andrios was telling us this. And also the other early kickoff is in Switzerland. Young boys, Aston Villa, happy to have back Unai Emery in the Champions League, and Aston Villa also playing for the first time this new Champions League. It's been a long time without seeing them in big European tournaments. They are playing entertaining football. The game against Everton was a thriller. They ended up winning, and Duran scored a beauty. By the way, Tom Rennie tipped Duran to score the last goal in that game, so cannot be more accurate. Unai Emery, though, in the Champions League, he doesn't have great numbers as good as in the Europa League, we must say. It's impossible to have his numbers in the Europa League. But I'm still eager to see his Aston Villa in the Champions League, and as favorites as they are against a team like Young Boys, that they have a Champions League experience recently, Ronan.
Yeah, I think Emery's Europa League exploits are obviously memorable and historic and well known at this stage. So maybe the Champions League can be a backdoor into the Europa League, as it has been before. It could be the chance for Aston Villa to win some silverware. But obviously this new format and this new competition, it's great. It is great for teams to get a different sort of match rather than the usual kind of first, second, third seed that we've seen before. But yeah, it makes a lot of great matches for us to watch on television, but it gives teams like Aston Villa a chance maybe to play teams like Young Boys more often. So it that'll be good, and we are here to enjoy it. But I'm not sure the winners of the tournament are going to come out of this one, because looking at the Opta supercomputer, which I love talking about during the Euros, obviously it was trying to predict who had the best chance of winning the Euros. Young Boys have the lowest chance of winning the Champions League with a 0% chance, not even 0.1%, 0% chance of winning the Champions League according to supercomputer. Aston Villa not much better, to be honest, 0.2% to win, but they do have a 32.3% chance of making the knockouts. So they need to finish obviously in the top 8 to get there. So they'll need to be picking up points in a game like this. And Aston Villa, as they've shown in the Premier League this season, they're still in the top 5. They're 5th after 4 games. So 3 wins so far in the Premier League, a comeback win over Everton. So they should be kind of confident that they can get something from a team against Young Boys. But this one should be an entertaining match, I think, because a lot of the games both teams have played so far have been high-scoring matches. Only one game that Young Boys have played in the league has had fewer than 3 goals, and the same for Aston Villa. I know they've played fewer games, obviously, but they've had 3 or more goals in 3 of their 4 games so far this season in the Premier League. And Villa have won both away games this season 2-1 versus West Ham and 2-1 versus Leicester. So Aston Villa win looks good here. Correct score of 2-1 could be an option, 8.50. Villa to win and both teams to score, I really like the look of. That's 2.7 if you want to combine those two. But for this one, I think there's just going to be lots of goals, and that's why I'm going for total goals over 3 at 1.91.
Also, Raymond is telling us over 2.5 goals, both teams to score for Ahmed. This Aston Villa is not the classic Unai Emery team, no, Alvaro? It's much more entertaining, more offensive, also conceding more at the back. Everton had so many chances on Saturday.
Yeah. One day with Tom Rennie, you have to talk about Everton and what's going on there, because they also were winning 2-0 against Bournemouth 10 days ago.
We talked about it.
And they ended up losing. But it's a good point, the one you make, because this Aston Villa doesn't resemble completely a team of Unai Emery. For example, look, I think the favorite team of Unai Emery, his preferred setup could be the one he had at Villarreal a few years ago when he reached the Champions League semi-final. Playing slowly, no one-touch football, 2 touches or more, just to make sure that you didn't lose the ball in sensitive areas, keeping the possession, a slow tempo. But in the Premier League, you cannot do that. However, he has adapted his Aston Villa to Premier League and to his liking. In fact, last season, Aston Villa was the team in the Premier League that ran less kilometers. It's a team that is a little bit slow for the Premier League, pacey football, but at the same time, they are faster than that Villarreal that he got a Europa League with. They've got 9 points in the Premier League. They are the 9th team in possession, but the 3rd in goals scored. That tells you that when they have a chance, it's a good chance. They are the 2nd most in big chances missed as well. So again, when they create the chances, they create the good chances, but they don't have any clean sheet. They have conceded 6 goals this season. So with similar numbers, last season Aston Villa had a night to forget against Olympiacos. I think that their defensive frailties were very exposed against the Greek side. And in the Champions League, if you make mistakes or if you come with this defensive tally, you're going to suffer. Maybe not against young boys, but in the future against better opposition. However, for this game, I believe that Aston Villa is the favorite. Them to win 167, I take it. I'm happy with that, mainly because young boys, who are, by the way, the Swiss champion, they are in a terrible state right now. They are 12th in the Swiss league. As far as I know, they haven't lost any very big player. They still keep Monteiro and Itten, their best scorers last season, but they have conceded 14 goals in 6 games. And they are the last in their league. So with these credentials and these numbers, you have to go for Aston Villa to win, and even more so in the individual market, John Duran, who is in a good run, him to score 2.5.
He scored a beauty against Everton, the 3-2. Next game, one of the best games of this match day, Milan Liverpool, 2 European champions. Probably if we made this show 1 week ago, we were going to say Liverpool to win for sure. Milan is crap. Liverpool, they are cruising in this start of the season. But at the weekend, Milan thrashed Venezia. In 25 minutes, they scored 4. Okay, it's Venezia, a newly promoted team. And Liverpool surprisingly lost at home their first game of the season. Alvaro, what is your take? Beautiful odds if you are taking Liverpool to win, also back to the Champions League after missing last season, or if you are too daring to go for Milan to win, is 4.
Beautiful odds in general for those who are optimistic about something in particular. I am a little bit in between right now. I'm going to back Milan with an Asian handicap plus 0.25 in the first half. So if they draw in the first half, I get half a win. And if they win the first half, I just get my 181 that I like. But other than that, I'm not in the position to make a big statement in this game, really. I watched Liverpool this season. They've been playing better the second half than the first halves. I believe that they got a little bit of a problem with 𝗀𝗵𝐿, a midfielder who can offer so many things but doesn't offer so many things consistently. And over there, Liverpool is leaking a little bit. Then they lost to Nottingham Forest this weekend. They didn't create massive chances against the side coach, by Nuno Espírito Santo. And Milan is a work in progress because both sides have a new manager. We know what Fonseca is capable of. He wasn't great at Roma, but he was very good at Lille last season. Milan hasn't lost any player that they wanted to keep. That has to be said. They got Morata, Fofana. Pulisic is having a terrific season, 2 goals and 2 assists. I think that with the 4-2-3-1 of Fonseca, Pulisic can shine all together with Rafael Leao. So I want to wait a little bit. I remember that Newcastle United came to San Siro last season as well, and they ended up, suffering to get something from here. And I feel Liverpool might find it a little bit difficult this time. So let's wait and see. I'm not going to take big responsibilities. Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Milan in the first half.
Last season, Milan were knocked out in the group stages, but they were quite unlucky, I must say, especially in the home games. I guess, Ronan, these are 2 work-in-progress teams, Jet.
Yeah, they are. That's exactly what they are. But I think I'm more passionate about Liverpool maybe than Alvaro is. Not as a fan, but in this particular match, I think the odds are very much in the favor of, like Alvaro said, if you have a particular favorite in this game, that you can back them, and if you're confident that they can do something, that they will return for you. And I think Liverpool can, because what I've seen from Liverpool, apart from that one game, there was kind of riots in the Liverpool fan base after Arne Slot was denied the Premier League manager of the month for the first month of the season. They were up in arms that their new manager, who had been kind of impossible to score against and had steamrolled everyone in front of him, was denied his chance at glory. So I think Slot himself will want to bounce back after that disappointing result, where they weren't able to create much. They didn't look sharp in front of the goal, but they have looked much better at the back so far this season, and I think that's what he's been looking to shore up. The defence has been very good. They had 3 clean sheets in their first 3 league games, and even in 3 of their friendlies before that, they had 3 clean sheets. So this is a team who are going to be hard to score against. And I know Milan have had their goals and they had a convincing win at the weekend, but they haven't looked particularly sharp before that. So I think Liverpool, they've hit a kind of a small kind of slump, but they can turn things around quickly. Whereas Milan, like Alvaro said, are very much a work in progress, and we need to wait a bit more to see exactly what we're going to get. But I think we've seen enough from slot ball, as the Liverpool fans are calling it, to know what we're going to get there. And I think they can produce a kind of historic win here, because Liverpool in the past have had very historic wins over Milan in this competition, so they can do it again. Obviously, every Liverpool fan remembers that miracle of Istanbul, so I don't think it's going to be that, but I think Liverpool will win this match, and I think they could keep another clean sheet here. So Liverpool to win to 0 is a good option for me. If you believe them as much as I do, that they can get something here, that's 4. Liverpool Asian handicap -1 is 2.75, and like on the screen, their Liverpool win, I think, looks very good.
Well, in the individual markets, we can take Mohamed Salah to score or assist, as Ahmed is suggesting, or shots on target also for Salah, more than 0.5. And VAR is telling us 1.4. He didn't have his day in the weekend, but before, especially at Old Trafford, for instance, he was great. Great game, this Milan-Liverpool, especially because Liverpool missed last season Champions League and Milan exit very early in the competition. At the same time, another big club in Europe making their debut in the Champions League this season, Bayern Munich, Dinamo Zagreb. It should be an easy one. Vincent Kompany cannot complain, as we said, Ronan, for his start. The first games were very easy for Bayern Munich, but you have to win them, and you have to win them in style, as they did against Kiel. Harry Kane, another usual suspect, scoring his first hat-trick of the season. Remember, Bayern Munich always a title challenger for the Champions League. Last season ended in the semi-finals in the very last minute. Very difficult to find the value in this game. Perhaps the goals market, perhaps adding Harry Kane, as we spoke in the previous video in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, I think the Harry Kane factor is definitely a big one for Bayern Munich, and like we said in that video, that Kompany needed this statement win, and that's exactly what Bayern Munich produced in the Bundesliga at the weekend. They were able to beat Kiel 6-1, and that put them top of the Bundesliga for the first time in a long time, which is kind of surprising when you think about it. But if you think back to Bayer Leverkusen's unbeaten season, that's why, really. But Bayern Munich are back top of the Bundesliga, and they will probably continue to stay at top of the Bundesliga. And for any new Bayern Munich manager, winning the Bundesliga is expected, but winning the Champions League is kind of what you're really going to be judged on. So they need to get off to the perfect start against Dinamo Zagreb, and I think they can, because this is a team that has huge Champions League pedigree. This is a team with massive European Cup history. When these sides last met, Pep Guardiola was in charge of Bayern Munich. They won 5-0 at home in that one. Lewandowski got a hat-trick. In the return game, Lewandowski scored another 2 goals. So they don't necessarily have Lewandowski anymore, but they do have Harry Kane, who is looking to break some of Lewandowski's Bundesliga records and maybe some of Lewandowski's European records for Bayern Munich. So Harry Kane as an anytime goal scorer is always worth a look. That's 1.60 in this match, but I like the look of even more of Jamal Musiala maybe making a difference in this match, because he scored super quick at the weekend. He's been one of the best performers in the Bundesliga so far this season. He's one of the best young players in the world. He can make a difference. He will enjoy games like this. He assisted or essentially scored the own goal in that game against Kiel as well. He just dribbled through the defence. He just is a menace to defenders, and I think he can be a menace to this Dinamo Zagreb team. So I think Musiala, anytime goal scorer, 2.8 is a good one here. But like you said, the value seems to be in total goals market, because Bayern Munich likes scoring a lot of goals, and I think this Bayern Munich team, now that they've done it once, they can continue to do it. So total goals over 3.5 here, 1.87 looks a good option. Bayern this season, they've scored 2 or more in every single game, so I don't think it's going to end here. So if you like combining the tips, I like Bayern Munich to win and over 3.5 total goals, 1.87.
A similar tip is giving Ahmed, for instance, in this case, over 2.5 goals, to be honest, and given the recent history for Bayern Munich playing at home against weak teams in the Champions League, Alvaro, like a -1, -1.5 for Bayern Munich should be almost a safe bet.
Yes. Exactly. That's why, I could keep that for a safe bet, but maybe if I give tips for this individual game, I'll try to give a little bit more of edge. So, there is something that tends to happen in the Champions League with Bayern playing at home in group stages or league phases, as they are called now, which is Bayern to win at 30 minutes. So before the 30th minute, if they win the game, you will get 1.8. But obviously that leaves everything a little bit dependent to a quick start and all that. Maybe I prefer Bayern to to win both halves, which pays 2.05. So basically, what I am saying here is that Bayern are very likely to destroy Dinamo Zagreb. Dinamo Zagreb, at the end of the day, has never won a group stage game away and in the Champions League. And on top of that, it's not that time has made them any stronger. I think that the differences between the top leagues and the lesser leagues is increasing. So I know that Dinamo Zagreb got a terrific playoff win against Qarabağ, who last season, by the way, were about to knock out Bayer Leverkusen from the Europa League, but they got 5-0 in the aggregate against Qarabağ, and Dinamo Zagreb is coming at the back of a disappointing result this weekend, but still, I will focus more on Bayern's reality. And Bayern's reality is that they scored a lot of goals. They scored 4 goals in the first half this weekend, and Harry Kane scored the hat-trick. So he has scored 5 tricks in 35 Bundesliga games, by the way. These are Erling Haaland numbers. If I have to go for 2 very ambitious bets in this show, it will be a clean sheet for Juventus, one of them, and the other one, Harry Kane to score 2 goals or more. That one pays 3.4, and I like it a lot.
Okay, Bayern Munich, by the way, this is an easy start in their Champions League, but then they play away against Aston Villa and Barcelona and at home against Benfica and PSG. So it's not that an easy schedule for Bayern Munich. You like Harry Kane to score a brace, at least in this game?
At least.
At least. Perhaps it's also a good option for Mbappé. Let's talk about Real Madrid. Stuttgart, the current champions, playing at home at the Bernabeu. They've had a slow start, we must say, in La Liga. They won their first away game in San Sebastián against Real Sociedad, but they were very lucky. Real Sociedad hit the woodwork 3 times. Real Madrid scored from the penalty spot twice, but Mbappé was good, we must say. He had a couple of good chances. He's getting better and better. We cannot say the same for Vinicius, by the way. But good news for Ancelotti. Alvaro, Bellingham, and 𝐿𝐿 are going to be back. On the other side, Brahim is injured, and Stuttgart, finally, for the joy of Ronan Murphy, won their first game of the season against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Real Madrid started last season against another German team, Union Berlin, and they suffered a lot to beat them at the Bernabeu.
Yeah, and how many times last season Jude Bellingham saved Real Madrid in the group stage, and then Real Madrid ended up winning the Champions League. I think that Real Madrid is about winning these games, and then when the big ties come, they will raise their level according to the challenge. And raising their level according to the challenge for Real Madrid means that it's totally indifferent and pointless to look at their patterns in La Liga, because then in the Champions League they hit different patterns. For example, in La Liga sometimes they concede too many goals sometimes, or too many chances, not too many goals, sorry, because they've got then terrific goalkeepers and defenders just to make the job at the back. But then in the Champions League, they start hitting clean sheets. Remember the Champions League final, clean sheet for Real Madrid, simple as that. So Real Madrid doesn't offer patterns. I always think that they adapt to the opponent they've got in front of them, and they raise their level accordingly. And this is the Champions League. This is Mbappé playing his first game for Real Madrid in the Champions League. The team hasn't played particularly well so far, but maybe this is the time for Real Madrid to hit a little bit of a super game and to produce a good game. So I'm going to go for Real Madrid to win the second half, 156. If Bellingham and 𝐿𝐿 come back, better, obviously, for the team, because against Real Sociedad, I could see that there were some legs missing in midfield, and 𝐿𝐿 and Bellingham will be those players, obviously. Otherwise, I'm going to go for over 1.5 goals in the second half. I love this one at Santiago Bernabeu, and my favorite will be from the individual market. I know that Vinicius was terrible against Real Sociedad, didn't dribble, didn't do anything like this, but I like Vinicius to score. The money over there is always good, and the Champions League is a competition that Vinicius knows very well, and his numbers in the competition are fantastic. Vinicius to score 2.1.
He's not looking good in this start of the season, but Rodrigo is looking worse, at least in San Sebastian. He was even worse. Someone, Arnaldus, was saying that, Alvaro, I know you are going to love Real Madrid to win the second half.
Yeah, always. But I told you guys that I am more than ready to put a bet now for the remainder of the season, every game at Santiago Bernabeu, Real Madrid to win the second half, because they are having a slow start, and then when they score the first goal, they kill you. And they score 2, 3, whatever is needed.
Well, perhaps, Ronan, is a bit misleading the clean sheets that Real Madrid are keeping, as Alvaro was saying, because they are not defending that well. Some problems, probably Militao is going to rest here because he had some muscular problems in the game against Real Sociedad. I don't know if both teams to score, Stuttgart to sneak a goal with 𝗀𝗵𝗏. We saw also at the weekend the 𝗵𝗏𝗏 scoring. Could be a good option.
Yeah, it's a very good option, and I don't think it's even sneaking a goal. I think this is just the way Stuttgart play, and you talked about playing Union Berlin, and it was a difficult game last season, but this is a very different German team that Real Madrid have this season. Stuttgart love attacking, Union Berlin love defending, so these are very two different teams. And Stuttgart, as we've seen at the weekend, they were able to record that first win of the season that you said, a 3-1 win over Borussia Mönchengladbach, and they'll be delighted to finally get that under their belt. And this Stuttgart team is a team who have changed a lot of players during the summer because they outperformed expectations. Nobody really expected them to finish second or get to the Champions League in the Bundesliga last season. So this will be a kind of a marquee game for Stuttgart, but they won't be kind of overawed by the fact that they're playing Real Madrid away. I think they will give everything they can in this match. And that's why I think both teams to score looks a great option at 1.75, because if you look at every game Stuttgart have played this season, no matter who the opponent, even Leverkusen in the Super Cup, they score goals, they concede goals. There's been 4 or more goals in every single Stuttgart game this season. They just play games that have lots of goals in them. So both teams to score, yes, obviously looks great. Total goals over 3.5, especially if Alvaro's Real Madrid win the second half comes through, that's 2.04. That looks really good as well. I like to look at that one. But for me, I'm agreeing with Alvaro overall. Vinicius Jr., he just loves the Champions League. He has 13 goals in 22 European appearances in the last 2 seasons. So he's just going to keep scoring in Europe. And it's hard to look past him scoring here, because those look like great odds for a forward who just loves this competition and can't stop scoring.
Well, Real Madrid to win and both teams to score, for instance, if that is telling us, let's see if Real Madrid wake up, because they are having a slow start this season, and as we all know, they love Champions League, is their competition, and is the right time to perform better. Next game, we go to Lisbon, Sporting, Lille. Sporting, they had the perfect start of the season in Portugal with 5 wins, back to the Champions League. Last season, they missed it, and Lille, they had a big issue, Ronan, and is the away form. This is something that happened to them always historically, but this season they lost to Saint Etienne, a team that hadn't won a game in this season, 1-0, and even, for instance, in the playoff of the Champions League against Slavia Prague, they suffered a lot to qualify. The good news for French football is that finally a French team could win a playoff in the Champions League. That's why they have their 4th team in this league. And this is why probably the odds are so high for Lille to win away, because they are not a good away team.
No, they haven't been a good team at all this season, apart from obviously kind of sneaking into the Champions League. And they lost that game in the Champions League, but they went through on aggregate. And then since then, they've lost their last 2 league games as well. Obviously, you expect them to lose to PSG, but that 1-0 loss to Saint Etienne is not a good result for them. And they're coming into this game being 8th in the French Ligue 1, and I think they need to do better. They need to step up, and maybe this is a bit of a distraction playing in the Champions League for them if they're trying to focus on doing well domestically as well, whereas Sporting, in their domestic affairs, they just are steamrolling everybody in front of them. 5 games, 5 wins, 19 goals for, and just 2 against. So the Portuguese league just seems a bit easy for Sporting at the moment. But luckily for them, they don't have the most difficult team to start their Champions League adventure with, because like Alvaro said, some of these teams that play in leagues like Holland or Scotland or the Portuguese league, it's a bit of a step up then when they do go and play Champions League opponents. But this Champions League opponent is probably one of the better ones they could be facing at the moment, and Sporting have been very good at the back. They've kept a clean sheet in their last 3 games, including a 2-0 win over Porto in that huge game in Portugal before the international break. So this is a Sporting team that are kind of free scoring, keeping things tight at the back, and they have history on their side too, because Lille haven't won any of their last 3 games against Sporting, and I think Sporting look good value here for a win, 1.76. It looks good if you think Sporting will take the win here, which I do. And 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜, he's been scoring everything in front of him in Portugal, but going back to last season in Europe, he scored in his last 3 home games in Europe as well. So that's what he does. He scores at home for Sporting. So him as an anytime goal scorer, 2.38, that looks great for me as well. But Sporting win and over 1.5 total goals, I like to look at combining them 2 together. That's almost at 2. So I think there's some value to be found there.
Raymond was also mentioning the goal scorer, 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐽 Sporting to win, double chance, and Europa League game. This one is Sporting Lille, indeed, Alvaro.
Yeah, well, let's see how this goes in this game. Maybe my favorite take here is 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐽 to score 1.9. The Swedish striker, who, by the way, I was reading the Swedish papers, and they brought in this story that 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐽 is the strongest footballer in the world according to EAFC, which is the new FIFA, I believe. He's got a 91 ratio in there. I don't know if the developers went too far with this, but anyway, yeah, he's scoring plenty of goals.
It's like Adriano when I was playing Pro Evolution Soccer, that Adriano was a beast.
How good was Adriano, especially in video games, incredible. There are some proper video game footballers there. I remember Luis Boamorte. Which one?
𝐻𝗵𝗏 was super fast in Pro Evolution Soccer, and in real life, I think he couldn't move.
No, he couldn't move. He looked old, even though he was not even 30 when he played for Betis. But yeah, maybe 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐽 to score here. 1.9 would be my favorite one going in the individual market. This is not necessarily a game in which I will put my money on, but of course, if I have to go to the full-time result, Sporting to win 173 would make more sense. Yes, 170 right now, by the way, is going down little by little, just because Lille is not having a good start of the season. True, they beat Fenerbahce in the 3rd qualifying round, then they qualified for the Champions League, but they have suffered 3 losses in a row. They are 8th in the league. And the worst thing about this team, and at the same time the best one, I guess, is that Jonathan David is not scoring. The best one because he will have to start scoring at some point. Let's don't forget that Jonathan David last season, he scored 19 of the 52 goals that Lille scored in the league. Well, Jonathan David is still not there, but hopefully he will raise his level according to the challenge. And the challenge is against Sporting Club Portugal, and Lille could do a very good start if they got the 3 points here, but I don't think that they will.
Our friend Daniel is asking about players overperforming in Pro Evolution Soccer. I'm just going to throw another name like Obafemi Martins, also for Inter. He was super fast and super good. And in real life, he was not as good as in the video games.
Smith.
Well, this... Sorry?
Alan Smith, Manchester United. Alan Smith, yeah, another one super performing in Pro Evolution Soccer, not so good in reality.
Leeds player, if I'm not mistaken, with Viduka, playing in the Champions League, for instance. Well, these are the games on Tuesday, and in this video we are going to analyze 3 more games on Wednesday. If you are looking for the other games, we are going to have another video in the channel, and you can check there all the games for Thursday and for Wednesday. We keep analyzing some Europa League games in the Champions League. Bologna, Shakhtar is the next one. First game in the Renato de Lara in the Champions League. Bologna, they surprised us last season under Thiago Motta, but Thiago Motta is in Juventus. Now we have Vincenzo Italiano with a lot of experience in Europe with Fiorentina, but not in the Champions League, and not a good start for Bologna. 3 draws, 1 defeat, some key players left, of course, in the summer. Still, The bookies place them as favorites, but with Shakhtar, we've had so many surprises, Alvaro, this season. We know that they cannot play in Ukraine. They are not a power force as they were some years ago, but still they have a mix of some Brazilian players, even Vinicius Tobias, for instance, former Real Madrid player, some Ukrainian ones, and we always find good odds if you are daring enough to back them.
Look, I like what Shakhtar Donetsk has been trying to do over the last 15 years. I think that they've got a sweet spot for good football. They always try to good managers, Brazilian footballers. In my opinion, Shakhtar Donetsk has been the best team of Ukrainian football rather than Dinamo Kiev. Some of the performances of Shakhtar Donetsk have been very good. Even they won the Europa League in 2009, I believe. And then they couldn't beat Barcelona in the European Super Cup, but still they were close. But like with the Ukrainian national team at the end, if you spend 2.5 years just playing outside of your country, very far away from Donetsk and all that, you will end up paying that somehow. And after the first hype, when everyone was very worried of how much they were suffering and all that, and they were getting applauded everywhere, and they were playing with an extra motivation. I don't know for how long they can keep that. All right. That said, Bologna is a team that has lost so many good players this summer. Calafiori being the first of them. They are winless in the Serie A. They've got a new coach. They drew with Como in the weekend. Luis Ferguson is not ready for this game, I think, which is a shame. It's difficult for me to predict something juicy, good money in this game, apart from maybe a win for Bologna, but still I would say that with little belief, maybe an Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Bologna could be something more reasonable, 163. At the end of the day, they haven't been in the Champions League and they will play with the hype of being here. But still, I don't have a lot of belief in these two sides moving forward. Maybe Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Bologna. Otherwise, let's go for the in-game betting at the end of the day. Let's see how the game starts and all that. Because, I think that the money can be made elsewhere, not necessarily here.
Well, Shakhtar, they were very competitive also last season in the Champions League. They were knocked out in a group with Barca, Porto and Anver, but they won 3 games in this group. So despite of the circumstances, Ronan, they keep being competitive in Europe.
They do. They finished third in the group in the last 2 seasons, so obviously they know how to get into the Europa League from the Champions League, and this is a team that on paper can cause problems for a lot of other teams, and they used to cause a lot of problems in recent FIFA games because they had great players. More recently, Modric was a sensational player in one of the FIFAs before it became FC 24 or 25, and I'm not sure he's lived up to that hype quite in reality as he did when he was with Shakhtar. But yeah, if you ever played Ultimate Team, or any of our viewers have played Ultimate Team, you would see a Brazilian flag come out and you would be hoping for someone good, and then it'd be one of Shakhtar's Brazilians and you'd be left disappointed. So yeah, they are a team that maybe are going to frustrate a lot of people on the PlayStation, but also a lot of teams in Europe, and I think they can frustrate Bologna on their first ever Champions League game, because this is a historic night for Bologna because they've never played in the Champions League before. The only time they were in the European Cup was 60 years ago, 1964-65. They played at Anderlecht in the preliminary round and they got knocked out on a coin toss after drawing 2-2 on aggregate. So yeah, they'll be hoping for something a bit better, Bologna, than getting knocked out on a coin toss. But luckily that doesn't happen anymore. So, but like Alvaro said, I think this match is a bit of a coin toss. There's not too much in it. Bologna don't look like they're a super team anymore. They've had too many kind of exits and departures, and they haven't won yet this season. 2 draws in a row is kind of frustrating for them. Shakhtar have obviously picked up some good results domestically, but it's a different beast when you go to play in the Champions League, and this is going to be a kind of a match where we wait and see what happens. Both teams to score looks like it could be an option here. Both teams to score, yes, 1.95. I think could be, because it's hard to separate who might come out on top. But I'm not sure Bologna will win this one. They still haven't won this season. So Shakhtar draw no bet is another option I like to look at in this one, 3.15, because it's hard to bet on Shakhtar at those huge odds that we're being given at the moment, or similarly to Alvaro's Bologna minus a quarter, I'm going for Shakhtar Asian handicap plus a half, which is just around 2 as well. So I think this is going to be a very close game.
Double chance. Carbon just told us actually this idea, this tip, Shakhtar plus 0.5 or double chance. For Shakhtar, Bologna, they have a tough schedule. In the Champions League, they are visiting Anfield and Villa Park next, and then playing Monaco and Lille at home. So it won't be easy for Bologna to be in the next stage of the Champions League. 2 more games to analyze. Sparta Prague, Salzburg. Sparta Prague also back to the Champions League. Last time was in 2005 in the group stages. I'm talking because they always lose in the playoffs. This season they have to beat Shamrock Rovers, Steaua Bucharest, and Malmo to reach this stage. The community manager, I must say, was a key person with his video of Mr. Bean showing the spot in first class in the plane when they qualify for the Champions League finally for the group stages. Salzburg, though, they are usually in this competition in the last years. They beat Dinamo Kiev and 20 this season in the playoffs. Last season they were out in the group stages playing with Inter or Real Sociedad. This one is very balanced according to the bookies, Ronan. We are seeing big favorites in this show. It's not the case.
No, definitely not in this one. And that's probably another thing that you will get with this new Champions League format. You'll get teams like these playing each other. It doesn't happen too often in Europe, but it actually happened once already this year. They played a friendly, these two sides, and they came out with a 2-2 draw. So they remember each other from the summer, but whether that will repeat itself here is an interesting one. And Salzburg are an interesting team to look at, especially for Liverpool fans, because they have Jurgen Klopp's assistant as their manager. They have Liverpool players playing for them. Pachetic in midfield is after joining on loan. Bobby Clark has arrived as well. So there is kind of a one for English fans or Liverpool fans to keep an eye on, that there is an angle there to this match that perhaps makes it more interesting than it might have been otherwise, because there isn't a lot for the neutral to shout about in this one, because it's not really on paper the sexiest of fixtures, but I think it could be one that where there is goals again, because these are teams that have been scoring plenty of goals so far. Sparta, they're first in the table, but they've 16 goals for, 6 against after 7 games, so they tend to score and concede. And Salzburg as well, they have a game in hand. They're kind of 5th in the table themselves, but they've scored 11 goals and 5 against in their 4 games so far. So I think this is one where both teams to score looks a good option. Yes, on that is 1.57. It's not as high as previous games, but I think there will be goals, and it will be worth keeping an eye on how this match develops. But I like the look of Salzburg Asian handicap 0 as an option. And then my tip on the screen is total goals over 3 in this match. I think there will be goals in this one. Just it's not clear whether Sparta Prague will be able to kind of do enough to take maximum points from this. So that's why I like the look of Salzburg Asian handicap 0 as well.
Well, Raymond, Andrijos, Nazar, they are all going for over 2.5 goals. We are used to seeing Slavia Prague in Europe or in the Champions League. Alvaro, this time is Sparta. Slavia got knocked out by Lille in the group stages, and also the Czech national team is going down in recent times. How do you see this one? Probably Sparta Prague as favorites is too much, no?
It's too much, yeah. I'm going to go for over 2.5 goals. I like that one because RB Salzburg is a team that tends to score goals. And because last season in the Champions League group stage, we saw that the average goals went above 2.5. So there is no reason for me to believe that this is going to change dramatically. So in these kind of games in which I can see that the forces are similar, even though Salzburg has a bigger pedigree, I always tend to go for over. So over 2.5 goals, 164. We have to say that these two sides haven't played in the weekend because there was bad weather in that area of the world during the weekend. Sparta had a little bit of a trip to be here. They made it, beating Malmo in the last qualifying round. They lead their league. They lost their best defender in summer, 𝐿𝐵𝐺𝐻, who went to Girona. And when it comes to Salzburg, they're going to find it difficult to qualify. The calendar is increasing in difficulty as the tournament goes by for them. They've got a few injuries, and the player who came to fill the boots of Sušić, now the midfielder of Real Sociedad, Kawamura, they paid over 20 million for him, by the way, might be out for this game. But anyway, that said, I think that goals will happen. So over 2.5 goals, 164.
Everyone agrees on seeing goals in this game, and let's talk about bad weather. Let's go to Glasgow. Last stop in this game, in this show, is Celtic, Slovan Bratislava. This is almost conference. We have to say Celtic won all 5 games in the Scottish League. Last season, for instance, they beat Feyenoord at home, and they have some winnable games in this Champions League. I was checking, and I could see Celtic actually playing more games. They play at home Leipzig, Bruges, and Young Boys. So, Alvaro, if they are able to beat Slovan, Young Boys, Bruges, they might be in the next phase, at least in the playoffs before the last 16 round.
Yeah, and this is the way I see it with Girona, for example, too. If they win the winnables, which is not a given, but could happen, then they'll be there. And with Celtic, same thing may happen. Look, for this game, I understand why they are favorites. At the end of the day, Slovan Bratislava was the only team that had to start from the very beginning of the playoffs. So when the Euros was still in play, Slovan Bratislava was already playing football, and they were in the first qualifying round for the Champions League. They beat one side from North Macedonia, then a team from Slovenia, then Apoel from Israel, and then Midtjylland. So they did all the job they had to do. That was impressive, I have to say. They've got a couple of players who play for Slovakia, and they were with the Slovakian team in the international break in September. 𝐻𝐞𝐭'𝐬, the former Milan player, and 𝗀𝗏𝗏. And they've been the Slovakian champions for 6 years in a row. But how much of that can you translate in the Champions League? That's the thing. And with Celtic, same thing happens, but they've got a bigger pedigree, more budget, more money, and better players. And they have won 6 games this season out of 6, and they have scored 17 goals in the process, which is a very good goal tally. I think that Celtic is going to win it, but I think that Slovan Bratislava, since they have proven to be competitive with lesser opposition, they're going to stay more or less competent and competitive here. So I'm going to back them, Slovan Bratislava, with an Asian handicap plus 1.5, 190, which doesn't mean that I don't believe that Celtic can win this game.
They were playing Champions League the 11th of July against Struga. What is the supercomputer saying about Slovan Bratislava, Ronan?
They have the lowest chance of making the last 16, is what the supercomputer. I actually hadn't taken a note for just some of the matches, but that was one of the ones I had taken a note on. 1.2% chance of making the knockout stage, because I suppose they have come so far already in the tournament. It's surprised they've made it this far, but their draw was a bit like England's at the European Championships. They just got lovely, easy draws the whole way until the business end of the tournament, and then they actually are going to find it quite difficult. And Celtic isn't the worst game to start with, but Celtic should be a team that should be kind of feared. It can be a hostile environment in Celtic Park in Glasgow, and Celtic have been excellent in domestically this season. Alvaro read out the stats of all the goals they've been scoring, but in the Scottish Premiership they haven't conceded a goal yet, so they've actually been very good at the back too. So, yeah, obviously they will have a higher caliber of striker playing against them in Europe than they will in the Scottish Premiership, but I'm not sure if that higher caliber is going to be quite in this game. So I think Celtic should be confident that they can win this match, because Celtic have European pedigree themselves. They've won the European Cup before. It's a long time since it happened. I don't think it's going to happen this time, but I think they can win games this season. And the same optics supercomputer has actually said that Celtic have the easiest draw of any team playing in the tournament. Like the matches you listed off, this is the easiest on paper. They have the easiest fixture list. So this new kind of Champions League format is going to throw up kind of anomalies like this that we'll see time and again. So Celtic win looks good. Celtic to win and over 3.5 goals is an option too, but my overall bet is going to be Celtic half-time, full-time. I think they can they can win this one and hold on and win it full time. I think this should be a match that Celtic will be looking to win, and I think they will win it.
Slovan Bratislava are playing next Man City, imagine, and they have to visit Metropolitano, they have to go to Munich, so
Poor guys.
Poor them, but they made it to the Champions League. Enjoy it while it lasts, of course. Well, before we go to our safe bets, Akas, remember that you can place your tips in our tipster competition and make money completely for free to participate, completely for free to sign up. In Oddspedia, you just need to register and you post your tips and you have the chance to win some cash monthly and yearly. So it's a good idea also to try your knowledge in the Champions League or whatever competition you decide to play. And again, if you are looking for the other Champions League games, we are going to have another video in our channel later on today with Wednesday games and Thursday games. Ronan, your safe bet?
My safe bet is Aston Villa, Asian handicap 0.
Alvaro?
Let me find it because I think that I lost it. Edu, continue with Ronan and I'll go with you now.
We have it in the screen.
Yeah, Real Madrid to win the second half, 156. How could I forget that?
Exactly.
I've been saying the same safe bet for months.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Ronan, your ACCA?
Yeah, my ACCA is similar. It's Asian handicap 0 bets because it's worked so far in the Bundesliga for me this season. So why break what isn't fixed or fix what isn't broken? It should be. So yeah, Aston Villa Asian handicap 0, Liverpool Asian handicap 0, Sporting Asian handicap 0, and Salzburg Asian handicap 0, and that's for 5.07.
You were correct again in your Bundesliga ACCA, and Alvaro was also spot on in his La Liga ACCA. So let's try it again.
Very simple this time. Juventus to win and Real Madrid to win the second half. Altogether 276.
Well, Real Madrid must win then the second half. Thank you, Alvaro. Thank you, Ronan, everyone for watching. As always, thanks for your support and see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.